Benjamin Anthony served on the Israel Defense Force as a combat reservist for 14 years and is currently the CEO and co-founder of the MirYam Institute. He's joining us now with more context. Good morning, sir. Can you hear us?
Thank you for having me.
What is your sense of how what we're about to see will be different or could be different than conflicts of the past?
Well, I think that there's much to be determined still at this stage. We have had mass call-ups of Israeli combat reservists in the past, the most recent and largest of which took place in 2014 when approximately 100,000 combat reservists were mobilized during the events that preceded Operation Protective Edge, Israel's defensive operation against the terror tunnels that had been excavated there by Hamas inside the Gaza Strip. With that having been said, we have about 320,000 mobilized on this occasion as a consequence of the most horrific, depraved, cruel, and frankly wicked raid and rampage against innocent civilians of the State of Israel. We've had 1,300 people killed. We've had them brutalized. We've had them raped. There have been decapitations. We've got 200 who have been taken hostage into the Gaza Strip, including our elderly, our infirm, our women, our children, even unborn children. And as a result of that, there is a very real expectation on the part of the Israel Defense Forces and Israeli citizens who are frankly one and the same, because we have a draft system here in Israel, that there will be a large-scale and impactful and decisive incursion into the Gaza Strip that will topple Hamas, as is the stated objective of our defense minister and our Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Will that happen? It's not happened yet, and many people have their eyes looked firmly affixed on our northern border because we have a conflict that is ongoing, low level at this moment, between the IDF and Hezbollah, an even more potent threat.
So as a combat veteran and as the eyes of the world are really watching what happened, we talked to some military analysts yesterday, and they said that, you know, with all the videos coming out and just the sheer numbers of Palestinians who have died and Israelis who have died, public sentiment may change and support may waver a little bit for Israel. How do you see how critical these next steps are for Israel in this fight?
Well, quite frankly, I think that it's inevitable that public support will fade for the State of Israel because that is the want of the international community, tragically. The international community is uncomfortable with a Jewish state able to push back against threats towards its very existence. The fact of the matter is that the international community bore witness to the most horrific attack upon Jewish people since the events of the Holocaust. The Israeli home front is reeling as a consequence of that. And the only way in which Israel can bring back to the mindset and the psyche of its civilians that it is indeed safe to live in and inhabit the areas adjacent to the Gaza Strip is to bring about a decisive incursion into the Gaza Strip with very real consequences, those consequences being the targeting of Hamas operatives and terrorist fighters. The consequences will not be the targeting of innocent civilians. Of that, I can assure you, but the world has shown good form in its inability to distinguish between Israel's right to defend itself and its right as an international community to condemn Israel no matter what Israel does.
This statement yesterday that Hamas is willing to release some of the 200-plus hostages, foreign nationals, not Israelis, but foreign nationals. Do you take them at their word that they're willing to do that if, as they say, conditions on the ground are better, meaning that if Israel stops the bombing, we will let some of these hostages go? Do you think they mean it? And do you think that's something Israel would do, pause the bombing or pause the invasion in order to get as many hostages out as possible? Or is that secondary to the need to invade and to make a statement here in a timely way and exact your revenge?
Well, we're not here seeking revenge, first of all. We're seeking to restore a normal way of life for the citizens and the people of the State of Israel in the wake of a horrific attack, as I've mentioned earlier. the most bloody attack that we've faced since the events of the Holocaust. With that having been said, the attack was in no small part the consequence of the intellectualization of the nature of our enemy. You asked me whether or not Hamas should be taken at its word. Within its equivalent of a constitution, Hamas calls for the genocide and the destruction of the Jewish people, by the way, wherever they may be. And I think that there was a failure to understand that that remains their goal. But it is their goal. We saw them trying to implement that on October the 7th, 2 Saturdays ago, at a dawn raid that left terrible destruction in its wake. When Hamas says that they may be willing to let this hostage or that hostage go, they may be being honest, they may be telling the truth. Unfortunately, they've shown their ability to be very honest with malicious and sinister intent. But I cannot see a situation where the Israeli home front will accept anything other than a conclusive, decisive end being brought about for Hamas and its terrorist arm.
What do you think, because we've been talking about this ground movement and incursion for the last several days now, and obviously there's a lot that goes into the intelligence gathering part of this. What is, I guess, the benefit for the IDF to wait and to pull back and say, okay, maybe we should take some time to figure out what we're getting into because of the geography of the Gaza Strip and because of just how densely populated it is, even though so many people have evacuated, but some have also returned because they don't feel quite safe moving south either?
So first of all, you didn't say this, but one of the things that's referenced oftentimes when talking about the population density in the Gaza Strip is the idea that it's the most densely populated area in the world. That's not true. Tel Aviv, for example, where I am, is twice as densely populated as is the Gaza Strip. There are opportunities for the Israel Defense Forces to act in a surgical and precise manner. In terms of whether or not it's sensible for us to wait, there are many uncharted waters. There are much water in front of us, rather, that is uncharted at this time, particularly the holding of 200 hostages inside the Gaza Strip, several of them with dual nationality, and that brings in the input of members of the international community, particularly the input of the Americans and the French. Now, we'll wait and see what the conversations between our upper echelons of the government and governments of other countries yield. The fact of the matter is this will be an incursion that is well prepared for, that the soldiers have the motivation to carry out, the cause to carry out, and that we are justified in carrying out. But I do want to be clear, whether or not this is still not a foregone conclusion, and just how far-reaching and long-lasting it will be is also not decided.
All right, Benjamin Anthony, former Israel Defense Force combat reservist. Thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Jay?
Thank you for